For thousands of years I lay dormant. Who has disturbed my—
Yeah, this video's late. What's up guys, and here we go. Fate Extella Link. Was the game long? No. Was it difficult? So what took me so long? Well, to be honest, fear. And laziness, but seriously, fear. Fate Extella was my first bad review on this channel, and playing it through was just an awful experience. Normally when a game doesn't gel with you, you just stop, but I wanted to reach that end credits for the review, so I soldiered on, and on, and on. Consequently, if you haven't seen my Extella review, I recommend pausing the video and doing so right now. Come Extella Link, I had already heard plenty of complaints on the title from its earlier PS4 release. So despite buying it on day one, I just never wanted to touch it. But alas, despite months of procrastination, here we are. And were the random voices on the internet right? Well, being a random voice myself, I can definitely say yes and no. The gameplay has improved by magnitudes compared to the original, but just like a wise truck once said,
one shall stand, one shall fall.
Now the story's the problem. It's like the devs just could not figure out a good way to improve the sequel, so they just yanked out the handy dandy's monkey paw and whispered softly, "Give us good gameplay." Now I do have a theory on why the story is so subpar, but I'll get to that much later. So enough staring at the title screen, let's get started with gameplay.
Are you softballing this review by starting with the good points?
Simply put, this is the power fantasy that Extella was meant to be. High octane action, improved visual effects, and a well bumped up roster including the likes of Francis Drake, Robin Hood, and Darius III. Okay, weird choice, but let's get into things. Starting off, basic attacks are shorter, less cinematic, and weaker than they were in the previous game. Hold on, that was done to make room for the new active skill mechanic, giving every character up to 4 special attacks or actions. I love this feature. All the characters' most iconic attacks are right at the fingertips of players, ready to be used whenever outside of cooldowns. You got counters, heals, power-ups, all sorts of things that couldn't be easily fit into the traditional Musou combo strings. One of the earliest examples of this that I ran into was Tamamo and her Bridal Fox Day, a recovery skill that creates a field of healing for herself and all allies that sit in it. I was instantly floored by this move. The tactical applications of such a skill were astronomical, battling high difficulty targets with hit and run tactics, running medical duties supporting allied units, neglecting escort targets only to heal them right before the mission fails. The sky's the limit. Now did I ever need to apply the skill in such a situation? Saber no longer cruises onto the battlefield flaunting her uncloaked sword around like a giant flag, screaming, "My name's King Artoria, whatever the localization says it is, and I'm weak against archers." Not that that really matters in a world where 99% of the characters automatically know each other on sight, but that sounds like a story criticism, so moving on. It's nice to see her fight with the trademark invisible sword and being able to release its true form with a skill that extends her range. Not all the skills are as bombastic as they could be. I was surprisingly underwhelmed by Francis Drake's selection of abilities. I mean, she has some cool AoE attacks and can actually cruise across the battlefield, but everything she does is relatively straightforward. Aside from the flashiness and power of active skills, there's also another element to them called class skills. Each ability has an attribute, like burst, area, rush, or long range attacks, and each attribute synergizes with one of the Fate Servant classes, boosting their strength and allowing rushes, a new mechanic that we will get into momentarily. It might seem like I'm giving a ton of time to the active skills, but they are just overpowering the other options in the game. Difficulty wise, if active skills were reined in just a little bit, the game could have been much more challenging. And it's a little bit sad because basic attacks, while being all those things I said at the beginning, are still cool, and the shorter length means that you are in more control of your actions. Objectives are a lot more clean in this game, taking out the tug-of-war mechanic that Extella had that could end the game instantly if you didn't choose to follow the objective, and instead going for more traditional game over conditions. Like if your master gets taken out of commission. Wait, what? Oh my god, they put the master in the actual game this time. While you still play as the servants during combat, you, the master, are also on the battlefield, functioning as a sort of home base, even speeding up the skill cooldowns of your playable character if you're in the same area, as their skills need to be even more powerful. Enemies will, throughout the battles, try a variety of different methods to take the master out, securing an instant win, but unlike the Regalia matrix from the first game, you are free to deal with the situations your way, intercepting enemies before they can make it to the master, beelining to the objective to stop your master from being assailed by tentacles. Wait, what? The game gives you plenty of room to play it at your own pace, while still encouraging you to deal with mission critical events. You can even Option Z it and ignore your master's endless octopus dinner altogether and gallivant around the battlefield, occasionally popping back into the master's section of the map and heal them, prolonging their suffering. enjoyment. This isn't how you play the game, go kill the insane guy with the skin colored book. While having your territory bombarded was in the first game, there are also new events and enemy specific objectives now. Oh hey Lancelot, what are you doing? Seeing Lancelot used for someone's glory to kidnap the master and then try to sneak out of the map for an insta-win was quite the surprise. On the allied side, the only character who has any sort of special ability was Tamamo, sadly. During certain maps, she will cast her noble phantasm to give you and your allies shorter cooldowns for a period of time, or until she's forced to retreat. Don't know why none of the other characters on your side have a feature like that, but it's not all that critical because allies are actually worth a damn here. They can take zones, defeat commanders, the works. They're almost too good. When you're fighting an enemy servant and one of your homeboys shows up, oh that gets one-sided real quick. And if you think I'm joking, what does that look like to you? Yeah, about that rush mechanic I hinted at earlier. When you land an active skill that synergizes with your character class, the game knocks the enemy up and gives you a prompt. It's stylish, overpowered, and I love every last part of it. The rate at which you can spam it could use a bit of a nerf, but this is the kind of over-the-top anime goodness I want from an anime game. Throw in some friends and the ass-kicking looks that much more amazing. Obviously I had to try the rush mechanic with the one fist fighter in the game, but that made me realize something. This game's racist. Against assassins. There's only one in the game. What about Jack, the Hassans, or even, the savior of France? But I guess in an army style game, it would be hard to make units for a class whose existence is...
If Butch goes to Indochina, I want a nigga hiding in a bowl of rice ready to pop a cap in his ass.
Fighting Servant solo does offer its own flavor, with much of the cheese provided from backup gone. Oh, did I forget you can assign 2 support servants that have a chance to fire skills when you use skills, complement your basic combo finishers with their own, and occasionally block damage for you? Anyway, 1v1 fighting enemy servants, even disregarding supports, is about as challenging as you would expect from a Muso game, but it still has its own finesse. Hitting each other at the same time causes a sort of rush struggle where you mash the attack button while watching 2 servants clash at high speed, fulfilling many of your sauciest dream matchups. At the end of the day though, stun locking your opponent in the corner like you're about to ask them on a date is still one of the most straightforward methods of winning. As with most beat 'em up titles, there's always one guaranteed way to knock you off of the opponent or vice versa, and here it's called Moondrive, blasting all opponents away while temporarily powering up the user. In previous games, this also came with a cool Sentai style transformation sequence, but those have been thrown out. Kinda sucks, but it was only for 2 characters, so I guess it's okay. On a more positive note, every character has a special finisher in their form that deals massive AoE damage. Oh, and before I forget, the music also changes when you're in Moondrive, and it's a cool track for the mode, but it is just a bit annoying that in moments where the music is trying to, empower a scene or make you feel a certain way, pressing just one button just tears it all apart. But still, it's worth it. Finally, we get to the Noble Phantasms, one of the most famous parts of the entire Fate franchise, and how are they treated in this sequel? They're still glorified cutscenes. Still super disappointing that they haven't moved away from all the NPs being just massive AoE room clears, well aside from Jean. Oh, you sweet cinnamon bun, never change. But if you will allow me to just indulge my inner fanboy for a moment, they do look really cool. It's still not as interesting as truly making each NP special with unique gameplay effects, but now that they're with a better game altogether, it is much easier to forgive. To summarize, Fate Extella Link's gameplay is finally where it should have been in the first game. It's fun, it's exciting, but still lacks in balance. The new direction it took with skills really makes each servant pop out as unique entities in the game, and the new objectives and mission types are all welcome add-ons. Oh, and there's a multiplayer. I couldn't even attempt to play it. Despite that, I give this gameplay 1.5 thumbs up. If not for everything else I've said, then for the sole fact that they made Darius III look cool. I don't usually use numbered ratings, but I give this gameplay a warmongering undead elephant out of 10. Oh my god, that frame rate. I couldn't even get past the title screen without problems. Probably for the best since Marvelous claimed the last review I did for including part of their intro. Strap in, boys, because if you thought this game was an instant buy, I got some bad news for you. The game's performance almost dies in certain areas. Certain attacks can cause the game to stutter, going into a handful of areas can chug as it struggles to load, and some Noble Phantasms are just too much for the game to handle. And it can get confusing, like I get struggling during Darius's MP. But Scotty's? It's just a gate. What are you rendering behind that thing, Narnia? The story starts with the player spending some time with Altera Larva before being ambushed by a new enemy. Sudden, but okay. In comes the new servant protagonist. Blah blah blah, and Altera has disappeared. Well, she didn't last long. You are then reunited with your leading ladies, but I can't help but think I'm overlooking something. Oh, they dropped the stupid mix of 3D models and 2D sprites in the cutscenes. Fuck you. On a conceptual level, I do like the idea of mixing the two, but Extella's execution was lackluster, so I'm happy with the game just going back to basics. With that said, it probably was less of a conscious decision and more of a result of a tighter budget, because as far as visual novel elements go, this game does not have much in the realm of animated cutscenes or even CGs. This mysterious army quickly surrounds our heroes, forcing them to look for new accommodations. Luckily, Charlelou just so happens to have a floating base as one of his noble phantasms. How convenient. And here we are in this game's hub world. Now, I don't really understand the need of a hub world, especially one as bare and as simple as... The hub is divided into several different areas. You've got your dormitory where you can talk to all your servants, there's a command room where you can customize their stats and skill layouts, and another command room. but this is where you actually deploy your units from, and there's even a cool feature where you can take missions from other allied servants, building up a bond with them, getting items, and increasing their effectiveness when used as a support servant. You can even favor your personal waifus and husbandos to make sure you get their mission every time. The level cap is a measly level 30 though, so remember to unfavorite them after they hit it to make room for someone else. One thing that must be pointed out about this hub though, is that a lot of this is just redundant. Like, you can talk and customize your units from the deployment menu. There is no reason for the other rooms in the hub world to exist aside from roleplaying. But the dialogue is funny, so it gets a pass, I guess. From here, the game pushes the player into the first real battle against Karna and establishes the main villain is brainwashing your former servants with something called oracleization. What it's really is a convenient plot tool to have you fight against existing characters without the need to make a bunch of new servants, but it is a unique spin on the idea, with the servants retaining all of their personality with just the perspective that the villain is right. This is also where it starts to show off some of its new features, like the fact that the player is on the battlefield. Dear God, hearing Tomo's voice again is just auditory masturbation. Like, I don't mean to be crude, but playing the Silent Fate Grand Order for so long made me forget just how good Tomo's VA is. Chiwa Saito truly has the voice of an angel.
What the hell?
But anyways, since this is the first real battlefield, I should talk about just how much the visuals have improved from Extella. Sure, I showed off all the cool gameplay earlier, but despite using a lot of the same set pieces, overall the graphics have gotten a significant boost, going from drab, stretched out textures and low quality Chinese knockoff models, to voluptuous landscapes, crisp texturing. Even the minimap has gotten a significant upgrade. Actually, the UI in general is all around more pleasing to the eyes. Sure, it's much more busy than the first games, but it's done in a visually pleasing way, and kinda reminds me of a third-person mech games UI, which works out perfectly with the Fate Extra Digital theme. Continuing into the stage, you battle waves of enemies, the standard fare, until the game's first commander shows up. Oh sweet, it's Drake. I wonder how she looks in holy tits, those are some big parakeets. See, this is exactly what I'm talking about. 2D is greater than 3D. Yeah, I said it. But seriously, 3D models had to be concerned with being acceptable from every angle. Well, every angle visible. 2D on the other hand can be handcrafted to be absolutely perfect when seen. The line work, the coloring, the volume, absolutely magnificent. Beating up the busty beauty and her boss Karna ends the stage and Dear God, Emiya, what did they do to you? This can be fixed by changing his outfit, which also changes the sprite. On that note, not sure if any of the DLC costumes change the character's sprites though. I do this for you, chat. Surprisingly, they do. On the topic of customization, I think I should point out how the equipment in this game is just meh. Not bad, but meh. Codecast once again returns as a key feature of the Extra series, being a piece of equipment you can craft from items gained in battle that determine what kind of support spells you can use during combat. But in this title, it's just meh. The ability to heal your character is always a nice thing, but as far as the other buffs and resistances go, those weren't priority at all. For the most part, I just equipped whatever new Codecast I built without caring for the individual spells attached. At least Extella had areas with traps that encouraged using certain Codecasts to block them, but here, nada. Install skills also returned from Extella, being equipment you put on service to boost their capabilities, but again, they're meh. Gone are the fun Easter eggs where matching an install skill to a servant's actual capabilities granted a ludicrous boost in effectiveness. Instead, it's a consistent +1. Also, this time around, I wasn't sure some skills were even working, or if they were translated incorrectly. Back to the story, because this is important. Talking with Emiya, he informs you that multiple areas are being attacked, and that while you can lead the charge in one area, someone needs to be in command for the others. In comes Arjuna.
Who?
Oh, we'll get into that later. Arjuna introduces himself as a rival to Karna and offers to lead whatever missions you choose not to. interesting concept, but this leads to another problem with the story. See this? This is your stage selection, and at first glance, it's pretty dope. Not the biggest chart ever, but serviceable, with some hidden stuff for good measure. But the game does not reflect the choices you make. If you choose option A, then Arjuna covers B and C, and the game continues like you did all three. This means that the writing of this story will contain confusing moments where something you didn't see will be referenced, like why is this character here? Why is this character orcalized? How did you of all people avoid being captured?
そうしたら、あのジル元帥に散々な目に遭わされたわ。やれやれ、あなたのようなチンチクリンがアイドルなど肩払いたい。そのアイドルに必要な清純さがあなたには足りないのではありませんか？
I can't stay mad at you. So yeah, had to double back and play Elizabeth's rescue mission. And upon doing so, I realized something. Lancer has a great ass. But seriously, I know I already touched upon the improved graphics of the game, but focusing on existing servants and how they have been changed has to be mentioned. Playing as Elizabeth shows that off nicely as her skirt flows a lot more now, going from the occasional panty shot to having 4 sequential service shots in just her noble phantasm itself. But if you want to get real scientific, after studying the footage and applying Einstein's theory of relativity, even sending it off to my local chemistry lab for forensic analysis, I am blessed to let from my lips, the female characters got a thickness buff. Don't believe me? Just check out Caster's running animation. It speaks volumes. The updated looks of the characters do go too far in some areas though, like giving Saber this very girlish and womanly face when she is actually pretty boyish, and like 14. After some time, the game finally gives you an important choice that sets you either on the upper route or the more difficult lower route, and seeing that this is a Muso title, anything to make this hack and slash more difficult. But the game clearly meant for me to do a path A before path B. Like, the main villain just kinda shows up in Route B. His slow reveal and some of the context to his goals and the mysterious oracleization everyone talks about actually happens in Route A. Why even make it an option if there is a clear path the narrative should take for the best experience? Even the original Fate Stay Night made you play each route in a particular order in order to set up proper context. Since we are on the topic of classic Fate Stay Night, an element about the game I haven't touched upon is the music, and for the most part, like some of my other reviews, no news is good news. None of the tracks made my ears bleed, but while there were a couple of decent tunes, heavily leaning on the sort of legendary tale sort of feeling, like the intro itself, nothing truly had the oomph I really wanted in a franchise with the freaking Emiya theme in it, or more recently, the Spinal Coaster boss theme from CCC. The main villain though is pretty damn respectable. I won't spoil what his true name is, though for anyone with even a hint of historical knowledge, yeah, that's a big reveal. But I really like his portrayal, his goals, the whole 9 yards. Shame it had to be used in this underwhelming story. I mean, many of his feats in the game are not shown on screen. I guess there just wasn't enough time. With that said, his existence pisses me off. Now I ain't no Fate lore expert, and if anyone can explain this to me, I welcome you to do so in the comment section. But the way they explain who and what he is introduces what I must now deem the whole of Alstafo.
Never in my life have I needed something so much and never known until I received it.
Now, for the sake of anyone who doesn't want to be spoiled, please look away for a moment as I'm going to put in text my issues with this reveal. Ready? Despite that, this villain was quite the badass. Extella's villain was a bitch, but this
This is a man. A handsome, muscular man.
and I really hope he shows up in Grand Order at some point. Now normally, this would be the end of the section. I mean, how long have we been going on for? But I can't ignore this. See, at some point in the game, the player loses the trail of the main villain, and all the heroes are left to wonder what to do. In comes Elizabeth with the brilliant idea, let's go talk to Archimedes.
What?
Oh, it gets better.
No, alright. I know that sounds bad.
Are you fucking kidding me? This entire game, not a part of it, not most of it, the entire game is a separate timeline from the heartfelt story of love and sacrifice that was Extella. I don't care if the game was shit. It happened. That's the kind of crap I expect to hear from the prudes who say that eroge isn't canon because of poorly written food sex. Fuck that, fuck defenseless anus haters, and fuck this game. But then it hit me. The terrible writing that ultimately changes nothing to the lore? The nonsensical plot holes? The overabundance of fanservice? This is a filler arc! Now there is no concrete evidence of anyone working on another Extella title, but digging around I did find a translated interview with Kino Nasu about the franchise implying that this was meant to be a side title and not a true sequel. Doesn't get rid of my issues, but now I can just act like the parts I don't like didn't exist.
呂布宝戦将軍にしてバーサーカー当たるあなたがあなたまで私をタマモちゃんを裏切って
There, Tamamo. None of this is actually real. Fate Extella Link is, an interesting situation. The gameplay is significantly better than its predecessor, though that's not saying much, and the story is worse. As such, I'm a bit confused on how I feel about this title. Obviously, I've had plenty of time to mull this over, but despite how much I enjoyed my time with it, once you really bite into the product, you see just how hollow the game is. The combat may be fun and more free, but despite the new mechanics, they lack depth or challenge. Hearing all the witty and funny banter between the servants might be worth some of the admission price. Oh shit, I forgot about Arjuna. One moment. Okay, I was out of the Fate loop for a while, but who the hell are Arjuna and Karna, and why are they so important? Like, I know Karna was in the original Extella and is a top servant, sure. I've seen Arjuna in Fate Grand Order, and he's pretty dope. Cool. But why the hell does their conflict come up so often in this franchise? It'd be one thing if it only happened once. But it seems like anytime these both are summoned, the story takes a moment to make sure they have a showdown. Hell, as of recording this, they have become gods in Fate Grand Order. But here, it's taken to a ludicrous level. Like, this game does not have many CGs or true cutscenes, but they made damn sure to have some sort of Dragon Ball Z level face-off right at the climax. Like, look at this footage. I was shocked to see a cutscene of that quality in this game. Is it because they're both Bishi bait? Because I agree, they're both indeed fabulous, but seriously, in the comment section, if there is a deeper reason for their popularity, let me know. Hearing all the witty and funny banter between the servants might be worth some of the admission price, but the story is, for the most part, meaningless, with almost none of the bite the original had, and the graphics are just straight up better, but ultimately, that's all they are, graphics. And that's without even factoring in the performance issues. Maybe the multiplayer could have helped the game out, but as with most anime games, sadly any sort of online isn't long for this world. Oh, how'd that get there? So my final rating for 3D Tamamo Simulator is a steal.
Boy!
Fine. Fate Extella Link by Marvelous is a sale plus. Maybe a buy or buy plus if you made it all the way through Extella, like I did, but in the end it's still a no-go if you aren't sold on Fate or Musou gameplay. This is a significant step in the right direction, but still fails to stick the landing in enough areas to make me disappointed that this was priced at the same mark as the original. And heck, Altera Larva isn't even playable in the base game. You have to buy her for an extra $10. I do this for you, chat. She's actually pretty cool. Fun story, Altera actually shows up in Fate Grand Order before her proper introduction in Extella, which is probably the reason that their noble phantasms are so different. but Altera Larva's MP looks like it draws inspiration from her FGO counterpart. Nice nod to the franchise. With that in mind, the shackles have been released, the world is my oyster again, and I can stop reviewing Dynasty Warriors spin-offs. Leave in the comment section your thoughts, and I'll see you guys next time. Matane!